So listener number one, who's doing his job, because he's a highly paid member of our staff.
Listener number one, Scott.
He thought we should do an episode on unspoken rules or rules of etiquette that might not be written down.
Just like in the barbershop, you don't know exactly how to do it.
Right.
You have to kind of go through the motion.
Yeah.
I had a guy at work stop me and say, "Oh yeah, definitely felt the rules growing up of the barbershop."
So we talked a little bit about when you enter a barbershop, you have to kind of feel out where you're in line.
One of these traditional barbershops, you don't take a number.
Right.
You don't take a reservation online.
Yep.
You don't make an appointment.
And so you've got to know kind of where you're at
Right.
in line is one of the unspoken rules. You don't necessarily break up with your barber.
Right.
You go to another barber in the same shop. It's
Yeah.
kind of unspoken. So there was these kind of rules of etiquette in the barbershop.
And then and I started thinking about it, there's a lot of things in this world, a lot of activities or a lot of places where there's rules to follow that aren't written down.
Right. You just had to kind of learn it as being on there. So the first place I remember this showing up is if you played, like I played pickup basketball.
Okay.
So me and a few friends, we would go to a local basketball court, and there's just a lot of unspoken rules about how you enter a game.
Yeah.
So there was.
Really? How you get into the game?
How you get into a game. So we always came because it usually was 4-on-4. So we always came with 4 people.
Okay.
And you just couldn't go out on the court and start playing if there wasn't an open court. You had to wait until you could work your way into the game.
Right.
And again, you had to kind of know where you were in line. And then there was that secondary set of rules as to like who was, should you even be at that court?
Oh, right. So,
Right.
hey, it's who's got next? And should I even be
there? Yeah, so there was like different levels of courts, and you kind of had to know which court you belonged on.
How do you know what the level is? Or you just kind of know?
Could you play with the teams? Like if you're at the top courts up here or the bottom courts, were you good enough to be playing with the top courts?
Okay.
Or did you need to go back down to the bottom courts for a little while and wait until you...
There's a pride thing going on there. You have to, so who decides in your team of 4, who makes the call?
Well, you all just kind of huddle up and decide where you wanted to play. And a lot of times, the guys I was playing with, we'd be playing maybe the lower courts.
Okay, all right.
Maybe we could get up to the upper court stand. And I've heard other guys talk about that too. Like they would play in college a lot, and there was definitely a hierarchy of especially if you were working into a game as a single player.
Right.
Like, could you hang with the guys that were playing, or were you going to hold them back?
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that. I think the golf course is another place. I don't play golf. You probably have more familiar.
Yeah, I grew up playing golf with my dad, and actually, really more just walking around with Dad, watching him play golf when I was really young.
Right.
But I remember some things about being quiet, and then also keeping the pace. Right. As soon as it was safe to shoot, you wouldn't necessarily wait for the group in front of you to putt out and leave the green. As long as it's safe for you to shoot, you'd go ahead and go.
Right.
To keep that pace going.
Yeah.
Another one was
because you want to move through the course.
You want to keep things moving. Another one which I thought was interesting is that you would never walk across the potential path of a ball on a green.
Oh, so you wouldn't mash the grass down?
Right. You keep an eye for all the lines, all the balls, where they're going, and you make sure you walk around everything. You don't you don't cut across a putter lane that someone...
I would have gotten that wrong every single time. Yeah.
Another one was fixing your divots and things like that. So when you tee off, sometimes you grab a chunk of turf. Well, you go get it and put it back. And there's even this thing: you take your tee and you kind of poke holes in it and kind of push it together.
I've even seen little turf restorers, like a little fork that you carry with you, that kind of do that for you.
Well, the other reason you use that is that when your ball hits the green, boom, it leaves like a divot.
Right.
And proper etiquette is you go and you kind of restore the levelness of that wherever that divot was.
And do you? I guess you have to rake the sand traps. Right?
Rake the sand traps back to being smooth after you've done digging out of them.
All right.
And one other one, which I thought was interesting, was where your shadow is casting.
When you're just standing around.
when you're standing watching someone play, you don't want your shadow to be basically in their line of sight.
Okay.
Or if it is, you want to be still, because as you're looking down and you're focused on hitting the ball, someone's shadow can come into your field of vision and kind of mess you up.
Okay.
So that was a be still, watch where your shadows are, stay away from the balls.
I would have blown all that if I play golf. There's one big place now that this happens.
Where's that?
In fact, it's become so fascinating to people that people set up cameras and just do commentary on it now.
Right.
And that is the boat ramp. There are two that I personally watch.
What, really?
Yeah, there's Miami.
Yeah.
There's the Miami boat ramp, and then there's another one called, I forget what it's called. But people just sit and watch people mess up at boat ramps.
Right. And this goes back to an episode we had about people operating equipment that we don't really need a license to do.
Right.
And when you go to a boat ramp, you see that maybe there's some training that needs to be involved.
And there's also all these rules about, when you come up there, like, when do you back your truck down in the trailer? Like, how quickly you get that boat off into the water and get it out of the way of other people.
Yeah.
When can you approach, when you can approach the load? I mean, it's like the barbershop. You kind of have to know where you are in line.
Yeah.
And when it's okay for you to approach the ramp.
Right.
And nobody wants you messing up with the ramp. They want you to get on there, get it loaded, and get off the ramp. For me, this is a new one, but it's very serious. Is pickleball etiquette.
Pickleball.
Yeah.
I know when I played tennis, I've sensed there was an etiquette, but I didn't know what it was. But
now,
what's the pickleball?
Where I play, there's usually not a line, but if you're at a bigger court, again, it's a little bit like the basketball court. It's like knowing where you are in your skill level to which group you can play with. But then also you put your paddle in a hole or in a holder to signify that you want to enter the next game.
Oh, really?
Maybe your team wants to enter the next game.
Your pair.
Yeah, right, exactly. So there's a hole where you can hang your paddle.
Is it in the fence?
Yeah, I think in the ones that are outfitted, you stick it into the fence, and then other ones actually have racks.
Really?
Yeah, the nicer ones have racks, so you can put your
say I'm next.
I'm next. Which reminds me of like the old. You said you never went to arcades as a kid, but
not enough to learn, not enough to have quarters to learn the etiquette.
But in the arcade, there's arcade we would go to. There was a lot of games had just a small lip on the dash. Yeah,
there's I do know what you're talking about because there's the screen.
Yeah.
And then there's a piece of plastic that sits proud of that.
Right.
And you could put coins there and they would slide down and just be right there.
Right. And so if you wanted to get the game next, you put your quarter up there, and so when they finish, then you would be the next one in line. And the same thing you do if you're in a pool hall. You put your quarters. If you're playing, if you have to pay the pool game. Yeah. You put quarters or stack your quarters to signify that you're going to be the next.
What if it's not a quarter type deal?
I don't know. I guess you're back to the barbershop.
You have to know where you are.
Yeah, where you're at that point. But yeah, I remember learning all that. And the other thing is you didn't in the arcade. You didn't bump anybody. You didn't interrupt somebody's game. Right. You didn't talk to them while they were playing.
That's right.
Yeah. You definitely didn't do that. The country store, I think, also has a little bit of etiquette. So there's a little store out in the country, and had a wood stove and old car seat in there, a few other seats. But I think there was an etiquette to that too. Like, I don't know that you could have just crashed into that group of guys, like as an outsider. You had to kind of know somebody and know where you could kind of be in the hierarchy. Maybe you didn't get the seat next to the wood heater.
Okay, all right.
You kind of had to know who that seat belonged to, that sort of thing. So I think there were some unspoken rules there I could pick up on as a kid.
Right.
Yeah, around the country, around the.
Is Pate's still there?
It is. I drove by with my mother and my brother last summer, and the store's still there. It looks like it's still, it's not operational.
Oh, is it not?
But everything is still there. It looks like stuff is still in the store. Actually.
Really?
Yeah, sure is.
Frozen in time.
Frozen in time. I think there's a little bit of rules when you get on an airplane.
Oh, about being in the plane and when you're sitting down and.
Especially if you're in that middle seat.
Yes.
There's a lot of unspoken rules. Like, you don't need to be doing, if you're in the middle seat,
Yeah.
you don't need to be doing anything. Like, you don't need to be opening up laptops or reading the paper, anything that's going to like encroach upon your two neighbors. You've got to kind of sit pretty locked in on that middle seat.
I don't know. I my experience has been you give the guy or gal in the middle a little bit of slack because they're sitting in the middle.
Do you give up the armrest?
I do. Yeah.
So you think the armrests belong to the middle seat?
No, they don't belong. I mean, you definitely want to trade, but I give deference to the person sitting in the middle because that's an awful seat.
That's an awful seat.
It's an awful seat. And if they want to open up their laptop and have lunch, man, I say do it. But what everyone needs to realize, the part of the etiquette is that the person sitting on the window,
right,
when it's time for them to get up and use the bathroom, you got to get up and and you have to also expect to be woken up by the person on the window.
You also, if you're going to be the person on the window, you need to be a heavy sleeper and go to the bathroom before the flight takes off.
Well, the way I'm a window seat.
Are you?
I always sit on the window, yeah, because that's where I sleep. Because I am a heavy sleeper. I'm not a heavy sleeper, but I am a sleeper.
Right.
According to my app, most of the time I should be sleeping with the lights off. I pull my hat over. I put earplugs in. I take a hat, pull it over my eyes.
Like a toboggan?
Yeah.
A toque?
A toque, or or I wear a sleeping mask.
Okay.
But the other thing I do though is if the people next to me are getting up to use the bathroom or something, I'll just go ahead and go. I'll just get up and go.
Right.
In fact, I'll get up and walk around the plane and try to stretch my legs, and then I'll come back.
I was 15 hours in the middle seat.
I'm telling you, man, I would give you the armrest for that. Yeah.
15 hours.
Yeah, that is a long.
Chicago to Shanghai, man.
That's straight?
15 hours in the middle seat.
Yeah.
That's a long time in the middle seat.
I'll give you the middle.
Christy had the inside.
I give you the armrest for that.
I've noticed, now I learned this the hard way, when I was swimming more, there's definitely etiquettes inside like the pool, especially if you're sharing lanes. Because I was swimming with someone one day and he said, we'll share a lane. And there was a certain like way you swam in the lane, I've forgotten it now, that you stayed on the other person's
Really?
lane. Yeah, there was an etiquette about it.
Eventually you have to pass each other, right?
Right, but there was a way that you did it, and I forget what it was. Because when he took off, whatever it was, I did it wrong, and we almost like collided.
Okay.
And then he said, "Oh, here's how you do it."
Oh, all right.
I did not know.
Well, it was nice.
Yeah, he didn't.
I guess there's an etiquette in the gym with lifting equipment and.
Oh, 100%.
Right,
Yeah.
you wipe things down. You puts things away.
Yeah.
I think it's also you kind of know when it's your turn and when it's not your turn.
And if you've spent too long on something too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think if you're hogging a machine.
Okay.
I hadn't even thought about that, but there's probably definitely a flow to all that. And there was like a lot of when I did triathlons, there were a lot of unspoken rules about just how, especially like on the bike, you didn't draft. Well, that wasn't an unspoken rule, that was a rule.
Oh, right.
You didn't draft. But I think there was a lot of like rules about just how you didn't interfere with somebody else's race, basically, especially like when you're in the water. Again, if you're trying to pass someone, if you had a slower swimmer in front of you, you wanted to be respectful about how you went around them.
Okay.
Yeah. Same with when you're running, just not passing people or coming up on them too quickly, that sort of thing. There seemed to be like an etiquette about all that.
Well, I'm either run enough or fast enough to really probably worry about that.
Games, man. I think there's unspoken rules about games. Like
what kind of games?
Board games. We used to have house rules.
That's what I mean. I think house rules are hopefully spoken, but to a visitor, you need to speak them.
Like, and I found this to be the big deal with Monopoly.
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize this, but not everybody plays Monopoly the same.
Not anyone plays Monopoly the same.
No one plays Monopoly the same.
No, I believe it. I believe it.
And so I played Monopoly with someone that was not family for the first time a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we really had to sit there for a minute and say, okay,
how do you do that?
How does your family play? How does my family play?
Right.
Because when you play, do you play where when you mortgage a property that you figure out the value of it? There's like a pretty complicated calculation in there for calculating the getting it out of mortgage.
Yeah, it's on the back of the card.
We just pay whatever's on the back of the card back.
Yeah.
But if you read the rules, I think it's a little more complicated.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's either that or there's something else. So there's actually some math involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like a certain percentage gets it back out.
Oh.
And the other thing that we do is, so like when we're going around the board, if you don't buy a piece of property, then that's just your decision.
Yeah, right.
But a lot of families play that if you don't buy a piece of property, then it goes up for auction. And that everybody that's playing can bid on that piece of property and it sells.
Oh, so if you land on a piece of property and you decide not to buy it,
Right.
then it goes up for
It
auction.
goes up for auction.
Oh yeah, no, I don't do that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like all that kind of stuff has to be worked
How
out.
about all the money that you have to, fines and things?
Yeah.
Does it go in the middle or does it go back to the bank?
So for my family, is if it's on the board, it goes in the middle. So like luxury tax,
Yeah,
the income tax,
yeah,
anything that finds you on the board goes in the middle.
yeah.
Anything that finds you from the cards just goes to the bank.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Does everything go in the middle for you?
Yeah, I played with one family. Everything went in the middle.
Yeah.
And when that person when someone wins the middle, game's over.
Game's over.
The game is over.
Now, do you start with $200 in the middle?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I don't remember starting anything in the middle.
I've met families that start with $200 in the
Okay.
middle.
Yeah.
Which again, the beginning of the game, you pick up an extra $200. That puts you ahead.
Yeah.
So the last thing I think we'll wrap up with, I think there's an unspoken rules now to meetings, especially video meetings.
Okay. Yeah.
There's definitely seems to be just some etiquette surrounding that, and especially like when we were in person a lot more. I think there was definitely an etiquette about how people sat. Or where they sat, knowing who, like, did you have a seat that was kind of your seat? And people kind of stay away from that seat.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some of that would happen in meetings.
Well, going back to the meetings, the video meetings, I think that etiquette's pretty important. Muting your microphone, making sure your camera's on,
right?
Using the raise your hand to speak up.
Yeah.
But what really needs where things really need to have etiquette is when you have a group of people meeting and you have another group calling in.
Right.
It's very difficult to have a meeting that way without some kind of structure on whose turn it is to speak. Because it's really easy just for the conversation to be centralized on site, and the people on remotely have a hard time getting in. Yeah.
We've had lunch meetings that way too. So comes a time where like lunch comes in, and finally you just got to tell the group on the camera, hey, we're
eating lunch.
We're off for 30 minutes because the noise and everything just gets too much for people.
But you got to stop the meeting then.
Yeah. There's probably even rules around TSR now that we don't even realize.
When you listen to it,
when you listen to it, how you listen to it.
That's right.
So, all right. Well, I think that's it, man. Thank you, Scott, for doing your job.
Good idea. Way to bring the ideas.
If you have things that you think of that are unspoken rules, send them into tsrpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, and if this is your first time watching or listening, would you hit the subscribe button on the platform you listen or watch with? And for those longtime viewers, we thank you. And like Cecil said, shoot us an email and tell us about some of the etiquette or the unspoken rules that you've experienced.
All right, That All Sound Right is a production of TSR Podcast in conjunction with Campbell City Studios. Peter and I do all the hosting and behind the scenes work. Georgia tests our merchandise. Brent is our international brand ambassador. And as always, listener number one is Scott. So until next week, keep talking.
And stay curious.